So I'll talk for about 5 or 10 minutes. I wanted to cover two things. How we actually drive change at AGN, and the change that we're trying to drive is a change to focus on the customer, rather than what might have historically been the case, and hopefully going back a while now, where network companies maybe were a bit more focused on their assets and perhaps on the regulator. So driving change to focus on the customer. And then I'll also talk a little bit about adapting to external change. And the external change that we face as gas networks is the decarbonisation trajectory that the world is on. And in particular, the COP21 commitment that most of the world has made to be zero carbon in the second half of this century. And we need to be thinking about that today, given the long life of our assets. So how do we drive change to focus on the customer? The most important thing is to set a clear vision and strategy for your business, which you then communicate out. So this is our vision and strategy at AGN. We want to be the leading gas distributor in Australia. We run the gas networks for central Melbourne, for Adelaide, for central Brisbane, and for quite a lot of other regions around the country, including parts of New South Wales. If you have that kind of position, you should be targeting to deliver a leading performance. What do we mean by leading? We want to deliver for the customer. We want to be a good employer. We want to be sustainably cost efficient. So customer, employees, costs. Easy, straightforward. I can use that with everybody. Employees, customers, regulators, government, everybody can understand that, and it intuitively makes sense. You might say costs is about the shareholders, and that's right, it is. But actually under the regulatory structure, we're regulated by the AER. If we cut costs, 70% of those savings actually go through to the customer. So cost is about the customer as well, and clearly energy prices are a big concern, so a focus on costs is the right thing to do. So it's a clear strategy, but it is also very specific and measurable. So what do we mean by delivering for the customer? We mean public safety, we mean reliability, we mean customer service. And we measure these things weekly or monthly. So public safety we measure primarily through our leak response. The most fundamental thing we do as a gas network is if there's a public safety issue on the network, a leak, we get out there, we make it safe within 2 hours, and then we fix it. So we measure our leak performance on a weekly and monthly basis. Reliability, gas inherently is very reliable because the network is underground and because there's built-in storage in the system. So gas inherently very reliable, but we want to keep it that way. So we look at the number of outages that we have that affect 5 or more customers. We look at repeat interruptions. We look at long duration interruptions, and we make sure that we manage those to be as minimal as possible. And then customer service. Now, as of last year, we did not measure customer service directly. We measured things that were to do with customer service, but were not directly customer service. So we measured how quickly we answer the telephone. We measured how many complaints we get. We measured how long it took us to connect a customer. Those things are all to do with customer service, but they're not actually customer service. What we now do, we did this in trial in 2016, and it's now a management KPI for 2017, is we actually measure customer satisfaction directly. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So that is now our major focus. Is the customer satisfied with the service we receive? And then we have similar detailed KPIs across the employee side. It's about employee safety, training, employee engagement. And on the cost side, sustainably means do the work. You can appear cost efficient in a utility for a short period of time by not doing the work. But actually, if you do that, you then better move on pretty quick because it'll come back to bite you. So we do the work and we measure that we do the work, but we try to do it within the allowances that we get set by the energy regulator. And if we manage to do it for less, like I said, 70% of that goes to the customer. So a clear vision and strategy is key to refocusing and driving change. But then you have to live that vision. It can't just be something which it looks nice on a sheet of paper. You have to live it. And that has to come from the top. So the CEO has to live the vision. The management team have to live the vision. It has to be measurable, because otherwise it's just a slogan. If it's not measurable, how do you know whether you're actually delivering it? What does it actually mean to deliver it? And you need to use it in engagement. So everything that we do within AGN is focused around that vision. All our reporting, all our KPIs, when we talk about ourselves internally in town hall meetings with staff or in management meetings, we talk about it by reference to customers, employees and costs. And we do the same with external engagement. And we are transparent on our performance. We're transparent internally, but also externally. And the picture there is a picture of our annual report for 2015. Our 2016 annual report will come out shortly. We're on a calendar year basis at AGN, and that goes through our performance against those targets. So we hold ourselves to account against that vision. Customer service is the core of what we want to focus on. So what we've done is we've hired an external agency, Customer Service Benchmarking Australia. Every interaction we have with a customer, whether it's a connection, an unplanned outage, or a planned outage, so mains replacement, we provide those contact details to CSBA. They call a random sample every month, about 200 a month. They ask them a series of questions, and then they ask them overall, how satisfied were you with the service you receive? And that's the killer question. The other questions like, were you happy with the information you got when you spoke to them? Did we tidy up on site? Those sorts of things. They're driver questions, but the satisfaction question is the key one. And that is our target. So we target now to get this year above 7.7 out of 10 customer satisfaction. After 1 month, we're ahead of that target. If we can deliver that target, then we'll push it up next year. And ultimately, we want to get to 8 or 9 out of 10 on customer service. The customer service game, going from 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, it's not about getting more 9s and less 7s. It's actually about getting less 1s, 2s, and 3s. Typically, you find if you deliver, you get a decent score. People are generally reasonable. They give you 8, 9, 10 out of 10. But if you stuff up, you get 0 or 1 or 2. So the way you get the average up is actually by not dropping the ball, by not stuffing up. And focusing on this on a weekly and monthly basis, it actually refocuses the company and gets people to focus on the customer. So that's how we drive change internally to focus on the customer. Then briefly on adapting to external change. So gas has always been a fuel of choice. It's different to electricity. Nobody has to be on gas, and half of Australians are not on gas. So we always have thought or should think about our product as being a fuel of choice. So in that sense, we're ahead of electricity. Electricity is becoming more contestable now that people have other options like solar and batteries. Gas has always been contestable. And I think it's actually very simple. When you've got a product that people don't have to use, you just need to ask yourself, is it affordable? Does it provide a good customer experience? Is it good for the environment? So we work hard to try to address those issues, and you can see the 5 things that we focus on there. A positive public perception for gas, high quality customer service, so that's the service I just talked about. Economic prices. When our revenues get cut, when our prices get cut, we make a big noise about that, and we're happy about that because actually it helps make prices more affordable for the end customer. We try and grow the customer base. That spreads our fixed costs over more customers, so existing customers also benefit if we add new customers. And then importantly, we need a long-term vision for the networks. At the moment, gas as an end user fuel is very clean compared to mains electricity. Not compared obviously to solar, which is zero carbon, but mains electricity actually, Australia is probably one of the most dirty countries in the world in terms of electricity. I listened to Alan Finkel the other week saying that actually he went to try to find a dirtier country, large country. The only one he could find was South Africa. So today, gas as an end user fuel is very clean. But if we do decarbonise electricity, at some point, it will be dirtier than mains electricity. And that creates a problem for us. So we need to think about what we're going to do about that. So we're working on a long-term vision, this is as an industry as well as at AGN, to actually decarbonise the gas networks so that we can continue to thrive if we do get to a zero carbon world in the second half of the century. So that will involve biomethane, so methane produced from organic waste from anaerobic digestion being blended into the networks, and it will involve hydrogen. So you can get hydrogen from a number of sources. If you burn hydrogen, you just get steam, water. There's no CO2. You can produce hydrogen from electrolysis, and that is a beautiful synergy with electricity and with renewables. It's another revenue source for renewables. If renewables are a major proportion of peak demand, by definition, there'll be an excess supply off-peak. So we will buy that off-peak power, we will produce hydrogen from it, and we'll put it into the gas networks. And what that's doing, if you think about it, is it's using the gas networks actually as a giant battery. And so it actually will incentivize more renewables onto the system. It'll help make the electricity system more stable, and it will also, in the process, decarbonize the gas networks. It's important to remember, in Victoria, which is our largest market, twice as much energy is delivered to the home via gas as via electricity. So if we don't decarbonize gas, and we replace it with electricity instead, that will cost an enormous amount of money. So the best thing is to try to reuse this infrastructure that we've already built and paid for, but in a low carbon way. This is something we're starting on. You'll hear more about this from the industry over the course of the next period of time. You'll also see increasing numbers of innovation projects. We're working on a pilot hydrogen project, and we're also looking to do some biomethane projects as well. So in brief, that's how we drive change internally and how we try and react to external change. Thank you.